This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and for the first time it's been about 6 or 7 months, I'm delighted to be joined by Adam Smith in person.
Not on Zoom. Not on Zoom. Not from kitchen to kitchen or whatever it's been. Yeah, great to see you. How are you doing? You all right?
I'm all good, Adam. I'm all good. I'm delighted to be able to come into the bubble, catch up with everybody. It's been a while. You've obviously gotten used to the bubble experience, but how does this one compare to the fight camp bubble?
It's very different indeed. I mean, we sort of got used to it. Actually, when we left Brentwood, when we left Essex, it was quite sad really that it was all over. And I think it was strange at the beginning going in and having to sort of isolate and wait for your test result and then going back to sort of see everybody. And it just turned into a really good atmosphere though. You know, the weather helped because we had a bit of outside space and there's games of cricket and football going on, as well as sort of the hard training and the interviews and everything else. I think the fighters felt as though almost every week was a big box office event, not just the actual Sky Sports pay-per-view event with Dillian and Alexander Povetkin. I think everybody felt that. So yeah, it was a really good experience, and this is different. You know, Eddie and I sat down and we talked about whether to continue fight camp through September. There was good weather actually, wasn't there, for 2 or 3 more weeks. But we thought, you know, let's go out at the high point and reflect, and that's what we've done, and sort of go again. And there we are, sort of plotting a big schedule a few weeks ago, and then we all, you know, turn up yesterday, this week, and Eddie's the one that's tested positive. So look, what it does show is the rigour of the process and the fact that, you know, it's absolutely right that, you know, the testing happens as it's done. Everyone's worked really hard to quarantine different areas, and this is a big place. This is, you know, the MK Dons Stadium and a hotel that's sort of wrapped around the stadium. So it's difficult, but, you know, they've got a floor that's been quarantined, and obviously these rooms. So you know, everybody's doing the best they can to keep everyone safe and healthy. And you know, we wish Eddie better. Obviously, I've been speaking to him quite a lot in the last 24 hours, and you know, he'll be really frustrated being at home, and especially in sort of one room or whatever he has to. And you know, we'll keep him in the loop, of course. But the show goes on, doesn't it? The fighters will fight, and Sunday night will be great.
As you've mentioned, Eddie, there, let's just come straight onto that one of many topics I wanted to touch on with you. Obviously, yesterday came out, Eddie had tested positive for COVID-19, as you mentioned. Just what was your initial reaction to it, Adam? By all accounts, that's the first person from a Matchroom show who's actually tested positive for COVID-19 since everything's come back.
First reaction, he's not serious when he told me, because he sort of joked about it in fight camp, and yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because you think suddenly you don't feel very good one morning, and you think, well, maybe I've got it, and then you test and it's fine. And he was saying during fight camp, and he must have been tested, I don't know how many times, we both were tested during that period, but I remember him saying to me a couple of times, oh, I wonder if I'll fail today, and it'll be, you know, but then he sort of got through it all. And when we spoke yesterday before his test, he said, I'm not feeling great, I'm really not feeling great, and I wonder if this is the one. So the back of my mind, but you don't think, do you? You just think, oh, you'll have the test and it will be fine. And you know, I don't think he had the sort of traditional symptoms of your coughing and you know, lack of taste or smell. I think it was just he didn't feel great. So yeah, it was when I got that message from him, you know, bad news, and I was like, so I called him straight up and I said, "Are you serious?" And he went, "Yeah, I'm really serious," and that was it. So yeah, it was pretty dramatic, because you don't expect, I guess, the lead promoter, the main man, to be affected in something like this. But I guess with what happened with the show, the Golden Contract show we did this week, and Jazza Dickens and Derry Matthews and then Victor Loughlin, so obviously there is a second spike, as we know. There is a big issue out there, and we've got to do everything we can to keep them under the government regulations and keep it as healthy. We're all walking around here with our masks on. You know, this is important, and I think obviously this isn't going to be the first positive test. So look, we have to take it day by day, week by week. Obviously, Matchroom are a terrific team, and they've got everything in order, which is why Eddie was dealt with just like anyone else who had tested positive. He was walked out in full PPE gear. He was escorted out, you know, and at distance and into his car, and no one saw him, and you know, that was the right thing. And obviously they've taken the room and they're cleaning the room, and no one will go back near that. And so, you know, hopefully everything will be fine and he'll recover, and we get on with it. You know, there's another show, as you know, Ritson show in a couple of weeks. I'm sure he'll be back for that, and you know, wish him better. And you know, Frank Smith and Scott and Ross and Dan and everybody, and obviously everyone at Sky need to get on with it and make sure Sunday night is a massive success, because it's a huge show.
Just to kind of dive a little bit deeper into it, because it was big news when it came out yesterday, certainly in the boxing world. When Eddie told you he was feeling unwell, did he have any symptoms that you could tell us about? Or?
Not at all. He just said, I'm not feeling great. That's all he said. He said, I'm not feeling great. And, I think, as I've said, when you have these tests, you sort of, in the morning, you think maybe, oh, God, I'm, a bit of a sore throat or a bit of a... So you don't know. And obviously you don't know. And so that's why we're tested. If we walked in and thought, I feel fine, then it wouldn't work, would it? Because everybody's got to be tested, especially around the fighters. We're in a bubble, and to know that everyone's negative is good, because we know that we can go about our business. We still have to be careful with... That's why we wear the masks, in the communal areas, etc. But it's a very difficult scenario we're in. The most important thing, and we talked a lot about it during the lockdown sort of period. It's like everyone's like, when's boxing back? Have some patience. Boxing is a dangerous sport. It's a dangerous sport where we need a lot of medical people around at ringside, and so we've got to be the ones that really adhering to it. And I think that the protocol that Matchroom have put in has been first class. Honestly, I think it really has. A lot of money's gone into it to make sure everything's quarantined, everything's in the right areas, everybody's tested. It's been rigorous. No positives in fight camp. Positive here, and it's the main man. You can't write these things, can you? But really, for me, it's an example, and it shows that the process works. And if it had been me, straight home. If it had been Scott Hamilton, straight home. If it had been Chantelle Cameron, straight home. It doesn't matter who you are. Health comes first. So it's good that we've all tested. You, me, Andi, and everybody else in here is negative. We know that. So we're the ones that can carry on the show, and Eddie will be going out of his mind at home, I should imagine.
On the back of the positive test, what further obstacles, if any, has it created for you guys, and what are you trying to kind of work around? Or have you got people who are turning up like a little worried at all? What's kind of...
Well, it created a big issue this morning as to who was going to do the press conference. So, Eddie said, you're in, do it. We just have to adapt. Look, Sky and Matchroom have worked very well together for many, many years. We are two different businesses, but we have an amazingly good relationship. And, we talk, and so Eddie's at home, Frank Smith's here, and he's been tested, and we're on the phone, and we talk about what we need to do, and then Ed Robinson and Georgie Faulkner and my Sky, bosses, and everyone talks, and we work out what the steps are ahead. And as we've seen, we get on with the press conference. It's the weigh-in tomorrow, and we just got Eddie at home, and let's hope that anyone else that's tested, in the next 24, 48 hours that's coming into the bubble is negative, and if they're not, they'll go home, they'll isolate, and we're just adhering to all the rules.
Earlier on, you mentioned Jazza Dickens and Derry Matthews obviously both tested positive for COVID-19, meaning Jazza couldn't fight against Ryan Walsh in the Golden Contract final on Wednesday night. Do you feel, obviously, Eddie has both of them guys and others that you mentioned earlier, do you feel because we're starting to see this kind of positive test now, we might start to see more fights fall through, and it could be a worry now for boxing on the back of what was a strong return with Fight Camp, as well as the Frank Warren shows over in America, the shows that had come back as well? Is this something to be concerned about?
Yeah, I think we've just got to adapt to situations. It's the adaptability is the key. Did we ever think we'd do something like Fight Camp, 6 months, a year ago? Probably not. But we did it because that was reacting to a situation. Are we really upset, Andy, that we can't have crowds at sport at the moment? Of course we are. We love atmosphere. We love that. The fans make it. But, we're lucky just to even have boxing on at the moment and sport on at the moment. That's really important. The Premier League came back. That's a massive thing for us. Formula One. You've got the golf, you've got, tennis, the French Open's going on. My scholar, Daniel Altmaier's in the third round of that. There's no crowd there. I can't get over to see him because of the quarantine issues. It's a very, very tough situation. And obviously we thought there would be a second spike. And look, will there be total lockdowns? Hopefully not. Will businesses be allowed to sort of carry on? We hope so. But it might affect some shows, of course, because, we've seen more positive tests now than we have before. I think Jazz was the first one on a British show. I think that's what Paul Gibson said, and I think Top Rank have been seeing that quite a lot on their shows, sort of on regular occurrences. Will that mean that going forward we might lose a fighter or two? Possibly, on each show. But and also, you've got to think of the operational side, all the people behind the scenes. If people come down with stuff, will shows be able to go on? And there's a this isn't just about putting a two fighters in a ring, there's a huge amount that goes on behind the scenes. And so look, we are dealing with it on a daily basis. It's ever changing. And at the moment, we've got a big show on Sunday. We've got a great schedule coming up with Ritson in a couple of weeks and Savannah Marshall. We've got Usyk-Chisora. We've got, huge amounts coming up November and December, which, Eddie and I carefully strategized and plotted and planned, and it all looks amazing on paper. But, as we see with what happened yesterday, things can change just like that. But we're used to changing times in boxing and the unpredictability, aren't we, Andy?
Certainly are, Adam. Just come on to this card then, start off with a headline fight. Joshua Buatsi returns. He's mentioned it's been over a year now. Just how excited are you to see him back in the ring, and do you anticipate we will see ring rust on him?
Really excited to have him back. I think we picked him as a one to watch for Sky back in the beginning of 2019. Well, that's nearly 2 years ago. Momentum's not been good for Joshua. He's got all the talent. He's very single-minded. He should become a superstar. Really, he's got the ability. He's got the platform, he's got the promotional outfit. So, it's really up to him. I'm disappointed it's taken so long. He said to me 400 days to get him back in a ring. And I know obviously this year's been different, but even last year was a tricky one. So the key for Joshua is to fight regularly, I think now. And I think also, because he's got such an incredibly deep division out there, both at sort of domestic world level like Anthony Yard and Callum Johnson, and at sort of elite world level like your Betebievs and Bivens, he's got to get on with it. This is a good test for him. It's an unbeaten fighter in Challenge who comes over with, he knows how good Buatsi is. He knows he's not meant to upset the apple cart, but you talk to Alan Babbage about him. He's had plenty of amateur experience. Alan Babbage calls him the Houdini, difficult to catch. That's up to Buatsi to go and do a job on him, and Challenge is unbeaten, so he comes with his own dreams and ambitions. But, Buatsi's a strong favourite to come back in style. You asked him about ring rust. That's a big question. And first couple of rounds will be interesting to see if he takes his time or gets straight down to JB, just business. But I expect Buatsi to come through on Sunday. And, let's hope that the momentum is then with him and he can get some of these big fights made. But as we know, big fights, very hard without the crowd, without the gate, with all these stipulations at the moment. So I think the key for Joshua Buatsi is to keep fighting. That's the key at the minute.
Moving on to Chantelle Cameron. Chantelle challenging for the WBC world title against Adriana Araujo. With that fight, provided Chantelle was to come through successfully, she's mentioned before she'd love to face Katie Taylor. She was, by all accounts, in the mix for potentially having to face her in fight camp before the Delphine Pursoon fight was announced as the rematch. Do you think that fight could happen in the future if Chantelle was to pick up this title on Sunday?
Of course it can happen, Andy. Anything seems to be able to happen at the moment in women's boxing. I mean, some of the best fights we've seen. Absolutely fantastic sort of 3 weeks when Natasha Jonas and Terry Harper went at it. We had Cecilia Brackers. Who'd have thought she would lose all those world titles to Jessica McCaskill? I mean, the Catskiller, great fighter, but Cecilia Brackers, elite. So that was a big upset. And what that meant was that there became a title available for Chantelle Cameron, because she was being a bit squeezed out, and she's a great story. She's sort of flown under the radar a bit. I remember the McGuigans telling me a lot about her. You've got to watch out for her. Never mind about Katie Taylor. Then she's hooked up with Jamie Moore, who's a long-term sort of friend and colleague of all of us at Sky. And of course now he's, sort of chomping at the bit, trying to get Chantelle as much notice as possible. And listen, she's got her chance. She's got her opportunity. It comes in a tough opponent as well. Unbeaten as a pro, 300 amateur fights. Araujo gave Katie Taylor a standing count, beat Tasha Jonas. She can fight, and she won bronze as well in London 2012. So, and she's going to bring everything. She's the pit bull, and so I think it's going to be a really exciting fight. Jamie and Nigel Travers have got a big job on Sunday evening to make sure that Chantelle keeps with the game plan, because she's a character, Chantelle Cameron, and I know she loves a fight too. So it will be exciting. But I think if Chantelle uses her smarts, she can come through. Be a great sort of another shot in the arm, wouldn't it, for British boxing if she can lift a world title. But Araujo has got her opportunity. She's waited a long time. She's come all the way from Brazil, and look, it's a big chance for her. And the sport is buzzing. So it's a fantastic fight to support Buatsi, if even it is a support as a world title fight. It's great.
Adam, we'll just move on to a few other topics, because I know there's somebody waiting to speak to you behind me, and you're going to be a busy man today. I'm sure you'd have heard it, Tyson Fury's comments on TalkSport, I believe it was yesterday or the day before that, about he doesn't really know where the land lies with his Deontay Wilder trilogy bout, and he'd be happy to come back to the UK and face Anthony Joshua. Just your reaction to those comments, and do you think a bout with AJ could be possible for December? I know the Purewal fight is, by all accounts, pretty much set, but nothing officially announced as of yet.
Yeah, I've actually talked to Tyson a fair bit during lockdown, which has been great. You know, it's been really good seeing him do all the stuff on Instagram, helping people, you know, with his daily physical routines and whatever. But you know, he wants to be fighting, and so does Anthony, and so do they all. You know, I think a lot of them are looking at Dillian and thinking, God, he's going to get two fights before I might even get back in the ring. You know, and I think a lot of fighters just want to get back out there, and I think that's no different if you're at the elite level or whether you're just a 4-round fighter who obviously needs to put, you know, money on the table and wants to get on with their careers in their different ways. You know, Tyson. I talked to Todd DeBurf. I talked last night to Araceli Viejas of BBC, and you know they were hopeful of a December 19th date for that fight. I was at the second one. It was an incredible performance by Tyson Fury. It seems such a long time ago now, and there was a massive crowd, and you know, and the biggest fight we've had this year. You know, so his White Povetkin has been the biggest fight we've had here, and you know there was no crowd for that. And just thinking back to Vegas and what that city must be going through at the moment. And look, you know, these times I'm sure will come back, but it's going to take time. So I don't know. Tyson, I think, and Frank Warren made it pretty clear that they want Tyson out in December. So if the Wilder fight doesn't happen, and Shelley Finkel said expect news soon, so I don't know whether it will be December or whether they'll hold it off to the new year. I think if they make it December, that's great, but can they do it without a crowd, without a gate? I don't know. I don't think so. And can they do it with a few thousand? Maybe they get somewhere. Will they take it abroad? It's you know, we're already into October. You know, the time's running out a little bit on it, I think. So you know, I'm not surprised Tyson's a bit frustrated. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him back in the ring in Britain against somebody. I don't think it's going to be Anthony Joshua. Joshua will fight Kubrat Pulev in December, and you know, we have to wait and see where we are with, you know, both those fights, Wilder Fury, Joshua Pulev, and you know, let's see what happens in the Povetkin White rematch. A lot of things have changed. It's turbulent times. I don't think anything can be sort of etched in stone at the moment, apart from the fights that have already been announced. And you know, we've announced Usyk-Chisora, we've announced the White Povetkin rematch. Hopefully, we'll announce Joshua Pulev soon. And those are 3 great heavyweight fights to be excited about before the end of the year. Would I like to see Tyson Fury back? Absolutely. Would I like to see Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce go at it? Absolutely. But that's I'm not in their business at the minute, so you know, it's up to their promoters to get them out, and you know, it will be good for the fans and for all of us if they do, because we miss them.
If for whatever reason we didn't see the trilogy bout with Deontay, Tyson said he'd come back over to the UK to fight someone. Who do you believe is out there? As you mentioned, there's a number of fights that are already scheduled and lined up, and some which haven't officially been announced, but everybody knows are in the making of being. So, who is out there for Tyson, in your opinion?
Well, I think he wants the big fights, doesn't he? You know, he already said before Dillian lost to Povetkin that he didn't really want to fight Dillian. Why did he wanted to fight Anthony Joshua? I think if he doesn't fight Deontay Wilder, he wants to fight Anthony Joshua. So anyone else is just, you know, would he lack motivation, or is it the fact that he just wants to be in the ring and actually just sort of performing again? I think that, you know, you mentioned earlier ring rust with Joshua Buatsi, and you know, AJ was in great shape at fight camp. He wanted to fight there and then, you know, and it's another few months they have to wait. And you know, these heavyweights are lucky because they don't have to fight as much as the lighter fighters, you know, maybe a couple of times a year. But you think about it, you know, AJ hasn't fought this year, last time in Saudi. Tyson hasn't fought since February, neither's Wilder. You know, if they don't fight until the spring, that's not great for their careers, you know, and also their personalities, you know Tyson Fury, and he wants to fight, and it's a shame he's not at the moment. But listen, we'll wait and see if there's an announcement for Fury Wilder. I'm sure that will happen. If it does happen in December, it's got to happen in the next week or two. And if not, then we'll see if Tyson just takes a sort of marking time fight. I can't see it being a massive name opponent in this short space of time. So, but would everyone love to see Tyson Fury back in the ring? Of course they would.
Adam, just a final question away from that one. I haven't had a chance to speak to you. I don't think we have either in terms of Boxing Social. We had the Alexander Usyk-Chisora bout officially announced for October 31st. How excited are you for that one?
Do you know what? I'm really excited because it was a real tough one to get over the line. I don't know if we talked about how hard it was to get the White Povetkin, Taylor Pursuan sort of whole package over the line, because with no gate, these fights are really hard. The White Povetkin rematch, I wasn't really involved, and Eddie went on and did it. But this one, David Haye you've got, and who's with Derek, and you've got Team Usyk, and that's a lot of money on the table back in May when they were meant to fight at the O2. So things have changed. There's no gate, and the gate was much harder with this one than it was with the Dillian fight, because the Manchester and O2 and what it was bringing into the pot. So look, my hat goes off to all these fighters. They've taken a hit, they've taken a chance, they've taken a risk. They're fighting big fights, and maybe not for as much money. And you've got to say well done to them. Dillian and Povetkin and Taylor and Pursuit to get that over the line. Now you've got another box office event which is happening almost certainly behind closed doors. Unless things dramatically change in the next few weeks, they'll let some crowds back, but it doesn't look like it. So you've got to assume that it's almost like going to be in the same environment, and without any gate, that's hard. So I was really pleased to get it over the line. I went straight down to see Derek and David, and Derek's in amazing shape. Look, he looks fantastic. He's at peace with himself. He's relishing this opportunity. It's going to be the best Derek Chisora he can muster. With David Haye almost like whipping him into, he's in his ear the whole time, and that's great. And we know how good Alexander Usyk is. He's a wonderful fighter. He's a special fighter. He's an enigma. He's known from the Bellew fight. He's obviously the best cruiserweight, and now can he do it at heavyweight? It was a bit of a sort of lukewarm start from him at heavyweight over stateside. So I think he'll be wanting to put on a statement. Chisora will want to just try and sort of grind him down into the corners. It's a great fight. Derek's a bit nuts, isn't he? He's unpredictable. You don't know what you're going to get. And Alexander is a strange individual too. I'm loving this. Alexander, it's Derek, all of that. I love it. It's brilliant. And listen, let's get them in the ring on Halloween. It's Fright Night time. It's going to be fun and games. And let's listen. I don't like to look too far in the future at the moment. Let's get Sunday out of the way because of what's happening with the situation in the world. But if we can get Usyk-Chisora, in the ring, and Derek always says they give me a date. I said, it's finally happening. It's October 31st. He said, until we're actually fighting each other, it's not happening. But listen, 99%, fingers, toes crossed, we got it over the line. And it was a big one to get over the line, and I'm really pleased it's happening. So I'm very excited about it.
Just a final question. You mentioned obviously overcoming the financial challenges that having a fight like that would have brought. Is that kind of a positive sign though, moving forwards, that we can still see big fights in these uncertain times in itself?
I think so. I think everyone's learnt something this year. It's been a real transitional and a very turbulent year for so many people. And let's not forget, let's take boxing away, take sport away. A lot of people have lost a lot of their families and a lot of heartache this year. And Anthony Yard, for example, is a prime example in boxing. And you worry about your elderly relatives. It's a very, very difficult world at the moment that we're in. So we've got to take it a step at a time. We've got to listen to the boxing board, and they've been brilliant through this all. I think Matchroom have been brilliant. I think Frank Warren has. Everybody. Todd DeBurr from Top Rank, PBC, everybody's trying. As Todd said, we're all being dealt the same cards, and everyone's got their own battles. You see with DAZN and Canelo and their output, and Sky, obviously, boxing is one of loads of things that we do. The Premier League was a big thing for us to get back, and do you want the crowd noise? Do you want the real noise? All of those sort of debates. Actually, it's just to get it back is amazing, and some entertainment. It's putting a smile back on the faces of people who have had really difficult years. So, look, we're in the entertainment business. We'll keep going, and we'll keep trying, and we'll keep coming up with things. And ultimately, we're only as good in boxing as the fights that are in front of us. So, my hat's off to the fighters for taking these chances, taking these risks. A personal thank you from me, because it is difficult. And you know what? They really do. They take their opportunities, and it is riskier. And you may get better fights down the line, but you're going to have fighters, promoters, managers, broadcasters, all dealing with different situations. There is a new norm now, and I don't think we're going to get back to crowds. We're going to get back, but will it ever quite be the same again? We don't know.
Adam, we'll leave that there now, and I will leave you to enjoy the rest of your day. I appreciate your time as always. I'm sure I'll speak to you later in the week. Thanks, Peter Boxing Social.
Cheers, Andy. A pleasure.